Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is October the 20th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I had a pretty great day so far. It's been so good. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you if you're listening to this on a Friday. And if not, hopefully that energy carries to you. It vibrates all the way to your ear holes. Let's see. As for me, today went pretty swimmingly. I did some work and that went well. I had some Cheetos for lunch. So there you go. There's some food corner. I'm sprinkling in there. Let's see here. Also, the usual energy drink, of course. Getting into the new routine because it feels like, we're definitely now like in peak mode. It feels like, things are, picking up and things of that nature. But yeah, overall, things are feeling good. And it's nice to see that, from where we started at Monday to where we are on Friday, I'm like, all right, good. I'm glad that the vibes are a lot better. I'm glad I'm internally handling and hanging a lot better. So that's good. That's good. Let's see here. So no food, nothing personal to really report in about outside of, the use pretty much. So let me go ahead and do my startup and then we will get into some news. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Actually, let me click it up. All right. Do. Ooh, actually, wait. I gotta add. This is a wine episode, so there you go. Those are a little bit different, but not really. I just like to add that I'm not drinking beer today, and I'm a man of sophistication. And I think I can't remember. Is Lapis Luna some kind of cheapo wine? They didn't have the privacy thing I got. I usually like to go for. So it's like a $15 red blend. So there you go. Yummy, yummy. A little fruit punch. All right, I like it. It's fine. For me, I don't have a palate for wine at this point. I just know I like reds. So I'm open to food and wine suggestions, especially right now. I'm like kind of in a food doldrum, if you will. I have no idea what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. I've been like dwelling on it and I just can't seem to come up with something I want. But, obviously I'm always down just for suggestions on wine, on beer, on food. Lay them on me, please, please, please. Sorry, I'm double dipping the chip here. That's pretty good. I'll be back. I'll be back for you. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm queuing myself up. We got to get right into the thick of it. We got to talk about some sad shit, and I think I'm putting it off. From Al Jazeera, Israel bombs Greek Orthodox Gaza church sheltering displaced people. An Israeli air attack has killed and injured a large number of displaced people sheltering at a church compound in Gaza, according to the besieged Palestinian enclave's interior ministry. The strike left a large number of martyrs and injured at the compound of the Greek Orthodox Saint I'm gonna get this wrong. Sorry. Porphyrius. Come on, cue it up. I've done a little bit of Greek history. I should know this. Porphyrius Church in Gaza City. The ministry said on Thursday night. Let's see here. Officials in Gaza reported Friday that at least 16 Christian Palestinians were among the dead. Witnesses told the AFP news agency the air raid appeared to have been aimed at a target close to the 12th century palace of worship, where many Christian and Muslim Gaza residents have taken refuge as the war has raged in the enclave. The Israeli ministry told AFP that its fighter jets had hit a command and control center involved in launching rockets and mortars towards Israel. As a result of the IDF, which is the Israeli army, strike, a wall of a church in the area was damaged. It said, adding, "We are aware of reports on casualties." I will say that, like, just even reporting it that way to me is like almost misleading, because when you see it, when you see photos, when you see what happened here, it's like, this is more than just like, oh yeah, it's a little bit of collateral damage. But like, no, like, I'm not, obviously, I believe that this wasn't the target, sure, but like, to hit like this is just so insane, and that this has just been a constant bombardment that we are covering and talking about, on a daily basis at this point. It's very sad. It's very, upsetting. And to just use the excuse of saying, well, Hamas is just doing human shields, so, we got to do what we got to do here. I do not think that is enough. Let's see here, a little bit of details on the church. It was built in about 1150, and it is the oldest church still in use in Gaza. Located in the historic neighborhood of Gaza City, the church offered sanctuary to people of various faiths over generations. The Greek Orthodox Patriarchy of Jerusalem expressed its strongest condemnation of the strike. Targeting churches and their institutions, along with shelters they provide to protect innocent citizens, especially children and women who have lost their homes due to Israeli airstrikes on residential areas over the past 13 days, constitutes a war crime that cannot be ignored, the Patriarchy said in a statement. Let's see here. So that's that on that part. I will say there is some good news for some Israeli hostages. They were released. It's kind of just like fell down the pipe, I think today, yeah. From the Associated Press. Israel says 2 Americans held hostage by Hamas, a mother and daughter, have been released. Hamas on Friday freed an American woman and her teenage daughter who have been held hostage in Gaza, Israel said. The first such release among the roughly 200 people the militant group abducted from Israel during its October 7th rampage. Judith Renan and her 17-year-old daughter, Natalie, were out of the Gaza Strip and in the hands of the Israeli military, an army spokesman said. Hamas said it released them for humanitarian reasons and an agreement with the Qatari government. The release comes amid growing expectations of a ground offensive that Israel says is aimed at rooting out Hamas militants who rule Gaza. Israel said Friday it does not plan to take long-term control over the tiny territory home to 2.3 million people. Now, that's important to add because, we've talked about this before. This is a very historical thing. I want to say it's like it was around like 1967, 1960s, whatever, to like 2005. They were occupying Gaza. And there's a lot of tensions, a lot of blood. And it was just more or less realized, like, yeah, we cannot control this. So they had to pull back some settlers. They had to, leave and, give the area back to the people. Now, essentially, they're saying, hey, we are going to, like, essentially, I think the Chesebro, whatever, they gave them the green light. So the military has a green light to go when they feel ready to. And, essentially, the word on the ground is like, you be ready to see Gaza from the inside, essentially, to the IDF. So, I mean, that's big. That is very concerning. That's very fucking worrying. Because it does not matter what side of this you want to land on, whatever. If you have a side opinion, this is something that is going to be very bloody. It is not going to be something that is going to yield any good fruit. I know the intention is to, find and get all the hostages out. But I do not think that is going to be something that's going to go well. And I think that is part of the reason why it's been put off. It's also been said it's kind of like a bit of psychological terror damage that you're doing here with just the mounting of so many military people, and it's just they're not doing anything, and the siege is just ongoing. There's still, I know I reported the other day about aid coming in. Still haven't seen those 20 trucks yet. The roads and whatnot are still being prepared, all that kind of stuff. There's still high tensions in terms of, who is this aid going to go to? If Hamas touches it, then this whole deal's off. So all this kind of shit. But yeah, I mean, I'm very worried, very concerned about just the ground offensive part. Like I said, it's just not going to be good for anybody. But I guess that is the plan, though, is that you want to go in there, get the hostages, kill as many or quote unquote all of Hamas, and then install another power regime, which essentially is what they did with Hamas. They essentially were a part of them coming into power and seizing in that power vacuum. So I don't know what happens and you just get a rebranded version and you're going to say, well, these guys are going to be super chill with us and we're never going to have any issues here. Like, no, because you've not solved or fixed any kind of underlying issue here, even if you go in through and you get your pounds of flesh. So, yeah, I mean, it's scary times. It's upsetting fucking times. I do think, I know I'm doing the fucking anecdotal shitty bullshit that podcasters do, especially just for the sense of a segue, but, I'm hearing so many people online about this shit, and I do think it's important. I'm glad to see that at least people have their eyes on this and they care. But it's also shocking to hear some of the shit that people are saying, and just some of the reactions that wind up happening. Like, I know sometimes people, if they see how I post a thing, they're like, oh, it's weird that you don't have like your titles and your things to that. And like, why? Like, it's kind of harder to see what an episode's about if I just see random pictures. And I'm like, oh, I know. But that's because I know how Facebook, I know how X, formerly known as Twitter, I know how these fucking algorithms work. I know these motherfuckers are watching, reading, and like if something is too spicy, quote unquote, they will zuck it. They will ban you. They will do whatever. They will lower your shit. And I'm not I'm being shadow banned kind of guy, but I do see what is happening to people who are literally speaking up and speaking out for voices that are not being heard, and then the immediate reactions to it. People are being labeled like, oh, well, it turns out you're actually an anti-Semite for your take. And next thing you know, you can't post, you can't talk. And that to me is very upsetting. That to me is very disturbing. Obviously, what's more important are the people who are living and dying out there, living in hell day to day right now, in my opinion. So I do think it's important to talk about this shit the best way you can. But yes, there is a method to my fucking madness. I will say that much. And sometimes I'm okay with being a little obscure nobody as long as I just kind of get my shit out, you know what I mean, for my own benefit, my own sake. But yeah, I mean, to bring it back to this, I know I'm kind of just running in the labyrinth of weeds here. I am happy to see these hostages out. I cannot stress this enough. I listened to a story on the Daily. It was sad as fucking hell. About just some of the shit that, people went through on the day. I get it. This is going to be a day. October 7th is going to be a day that people are not going to forget. I understand that. A lot of fucking terrible, sad shit fucking happened. But it is good to see at least, hey, some people got to get back to their families. I think that's awesome. That's great. But yeah, let's move on. Actually, the rest of this episode is going to be a Trump pack. So, sorry if that's not what you're into. Technically me neither. I try to put this off, but this is legal. These motherfuckers are hitting the plea deals. You know what I mean? People are getting caught up in the RICO. So, let's go ahead and get into that. CNN. Trump attorney Sidney Powell pleads guilty in Georgia election subversion case. Now, I initially was kind of like, yeah, I get it. One of the gang. I missed a bail bondsman. I haven't talked about him. I guess we'll kind of talk about him as we go. But our first person on the list, Sidney Powell, former Donald Trump attorney Sidney Powell has pleaded guilty in the Georgia election subversion case, one day before her trial was set to start. As part of her guilty plea, Powell is admitting her role in the January 2021 breach of election systems in rural Coffee County, Georgia, with the help of local GOP officials, a group of Trump supporters assessed and copied information from the county's election systems in hopes of somehow proving that the election was rigged against Trump. So essentially, she got this kind of green light to just do illegal shit and come and like literally seize like Dominion systems in the name of Donald Trump, in the name of like election credibility or whatever the fuck. But she's pleaded guilty Thursday to 6 misdemeanors, 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties, a significant reduction from the 7 felonies she initially faced. Now, she also has what CNN says is a total of $9,000 in restitution and fines. I've heard in a couple others that it's just $6,000, but either way, I mean, that's money. Let's see here. Now, granted, for her sentence, it's going to be 6 years probation, which is obviously very relevant. Yeah, it's time, but it's time that you're not going to have to fucking serve because you're just going to go back to your ho-hum, whatever ass life. But I think an important part here is that she is going to have to be open to testify. That's a part of it. And she has to like agree to the terms of the plea deal. Like there's no half measures in that regard. Like you have to say you did what, this says you did. Okay. And you have to cooperate with us. So, that potentially, and that's what piqued my interest is that last part in terms of like the cooperation. So it's like, oh shit, you might have to actually be a witness now against Donald Trump, against, the remaining, I think now, what has it been, 3 people, maybe 4 of the 17. So I don't know, 13, 14, I'm bad at math. But, so you might now be turned against those other people. Now, I think when you get into the details of it, there's a chance that she's really not going to be that pivotal and it's just a plea deal for her, just wrapping it up. But still, that's great for Fani Willis, the prosecutor out of Georgia. I don't know why I said it like that. But she now has, not this motherfucker out because it's already weird when you have a RICO case and the RICO case starts to like split apart because it's supposed to be like, hey, you're all a part of this racketeering thing. We're charging you together, so we want you to be tried together. We want it all to kind of work in concert. But like, obviously for Donald Trump, we've talked about this before, he's trying to delay. And there's other people who are like, oh no, I am going to be like in jail. Like, no, fuck this. Like, run my shit. I have the right to a speedy trial. I want a speedy trial. So that's essentially what's kind of happened here. There was a bit of a fraying, I would say, not unraveling. But for Fani Willis to wrap these up with plea deals, that's great. And essentially that looks even better for your RICO case because you already have wins on your belt while the RICO case is still ongoing. So, like I said, this is kind of good. She's now the second person in the sprawling racketeering case to plead guilty. Bail bondsman Scott Hall last month pleaded guilty and agreed to testify at future trials. The other 17 defendants, including Trump, have pleaded not guilty. Let's see here. Now there is, we can go ahead and talk about the next guy. Oh yeah, before we get into the next guy, which is Kenneth Chesebro, funny fucking name. There is another case. Trump's got a lot of shit in other piles. I haven't talked too much about the unnamed motherfuckers. Mostly I've kind of said, hey, it's Donald Trump. Yeah, it's fucking sweaty ass, old ass Rudy Giuliani, New York's mayor. I don't know where those accents came from, but whatever. Powell is also involved in these cases as well, at least in terms of the thing with Jack Smith. She's an unnamed co-conspirator, so she might get called up and potentially have to, deal with also lawsuits from Dominion, who I mentioned earlier, the voting systems, and Smartmatic. So, I mean, those are still things that are ongoing, and, she's entangled in, so we'll see there. But she's essentially, dodging a jail cell, but potentially might be a, talking, witness against Trump. So that's big. Now, let's move on. Associated Press. Lawyer Kenneth Chesebro pleads guilty over efforts to overturn Trump's 2020 loss in Georgia. So this is very similar. part of the pack here. Lawyer Kenneth Chesebro pleaded guilty to a felony on Friday, just as jury selection was getting underway and his trial on charges accusing him of participating in efforts to overturn Donald Trump's loss in the 2020 election in Georgia. So, yeah, I mean, their trial was just about to start, and they both were like, okay, yeah, we're good. We'll take the plea deal. We're good. Let's wrap this up. Chesebro, who was charged along Trump and 17 others with violating the state's anti-racketeering law, pleaded guilty to one felony charge of conspiracy to commit filing false documents in a last-minute deal, with prosecutors agreeing to dismiss the other charges. Let's see here. Chesebro's case, he was sentenced to 5 years of probation and 100 hours of community service and was ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution and write an apology letter to Georgia's residents and testify truthfully at any future trial. Also, Powell also had to write that same letter. So she also had to say, sorry, I'm so sorry for being a bad person. Also, I think it's funny that in Chesebro's case, I read here that he still wants to like continue doing law, like, which I think it's like, bro, like that's crazy. Like, what is another fucking villain gonna hire you? That's insane. Like, please pick another fucking profession. My goodness, but nah, my man's a glutton for punishment. He's down to do more evil. I kind of want to yada 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 here. He's another guy in the bunch. I mean, there's details here if you want to fucking read it. But, yeah, I mean, in both cases, I've heard that it's a strong chance that they're not going to actually wind up being a useful testimony witness. But they both are down to do it. They have to do it if that's the case. So, I don't know. I've heard, from some talking heads or whatever, like, oh, like in Chesebro's case, there's actually ties to Trump in a way that's like, oh, no, he actually is more useful than Powell. Like, Powell was kind of running a group, and this group went to do, like, get the voting machines, yada, yada, yada. Whereas, like, I guess with Chesebro, there's actual just more tethers. I don't fucking know. We'll see. We'll see what comes out in the wash. All right. And last but not least, we talk about the man himself. And to that, I'm going to take a break because I feel like I deserved it. I always feel like I deserved it, though, don't I? Don't I? Ooh-wee. Yeah, wine's still good. Okay. From Politico. Trump fined $5,000 for violating gag order as judge threatens jail for future violations. So, sticking to Trump, switching cases. A judge fined Donald Trump, excuse me, $5,000 Friday after finding the former president's campaign website continued to display a social media post attacking the judge's law clerk in violation of a gag order imposed by the judge earlier this month. Justice Arthur Engoron also indicated that he would consider jailing Trump for future violations of the gag order. So, this is over his business empire, about how he inflated his fucking shit. A thing that we've more or less said he's already cooked for. He's just we're going through the motions and ironing everything out. But Trump has kind of been using this to stump and just like talk a lot of shit. Something I didn't cover was the gag order thing, because I'm like, yeah, whatever. They told him to pipe down a little bit. This is something that Trump more or less abided by because he took down the post on Thursday, but he didn't take it down on his campaign website or some shit to that effect. And he only took it down after Engoron sent an email about it. And so Engoron's like, okay, I have to send a message here. So here's $5,000. And if you do this again, I'll ratchet up the fines or potentially ratchet it up to prison time. It's kind of no news here. It's a bit of a nothing burger when you really look at it. I mean, what's $5,000 to Trump at the end of the fucking day? It's nothing. He wipes his ass with that fucking shit. I don't know. I guess while we're on the subject, though, I mean, this is a big deal, him losing this, but it's also, not. He essentially just has to, like, reorganize his empire. He is going to, like, lose some things, but essentially just going to be overseen by other, parties or what have you. So it is kind of whatever. I feel like the last time I covered this, I was, maybe a little bit too heavy-handed or a little too huzzah. Like, we really got him with that one. But, I don't know. We'll kind of see what comes out with this shit. But, yeah, that's more or less the episode for today. I feel like I want to leave it there. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's see. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Let's see here. You do become a newsie at the top of the month. I shout you out, plug a project thing you're doing. Also, gotta say, I think that wine is working. Let's see. If you'd like to send feedback, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. You can do that there. And you can send me an email. We can do it Sleepless in Seattle style. Yeah, if you know what that means, you're old. Me too. Let's see here. Freeway. I'm on all the socials. Yeah, I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm on Facebook. It's now called Meta. Sorry. Sorry, Mark Zuckerberg. No, please don't ban me. No, not again. Let's see. And then plus the subscribe to the YouTube. It really helps out a lot. Thumbs up. Hit the bells. All the bells on any of the apps you're on. Comment all the review stars, please. Thank you. Nice comments are always great. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.